Cool. So they're ready to go, more or less. Now, we have to come back up here for a minute. We need to turn this into an actual solid piece of geometry to fracture. Obviously, we can't just fracture this infinitely thin plane if we wanted to have big chunks of debris falling down. So we need to turn this into something worth breaking apart. So I'm going to take a poly extrude, and that extrude is going to come in here and say, hey, transform an extrusion in global space downwards. So I'm just going to take this and just bring it down. Now we have it, it's hollow on the top like a pool because we're not outputting the back by default. So turn that on, and we're also going to want to extrude that group. The extrude back will refer to this area on the top, and we can see that by going here and saying extrude back is the surface. And it's kind of funny because before we even said output back, well, we had the surface there before, but the extrude actually moves it downwards. So it's the surface, the old surface is now on the bottom. So we need to make a new surface like this. So there that is. So we'll say make deep. And what's nice about Houdini 16 is you can see it says poly extrude here. When I say Control Z to go back, when it said poly extrude in the name, it actually doesn't feel the need to label it. But once you change this, you could change it to something else that has poly extrude in it and it still won't. But if I change it to something like make deep, now it'll say poly extrude here, just so you know which kind of node it is, which is pretty cool. I like that. Now, extrude back is a primitive group. I know from experience that these groups won't survive the Booleans. So I'm just going to say we're going to need to know later on. We're going to want to do a lot of different stuff to the surface or do things to pieces that touch the surface and so on and so forth. And because we're going to lose this extrude back group, we're going to need to save it now in a way that's more robust. And that is kind of like in Rigids 3, we're going to make it a integer attribute instead of a group. So we'll just say integer attribute called surface is 1, and we'll only apply that to the extrude back primitives. So what's going to end up happening is a whole bunch of these primitives will be 1, and any other place will be 0. Because the Wrangler only ran on these, but every piece, once you have an attribute, everything has to have a value for that attribute. You can't just have a surface attribute on some polygons and not on others. So we'll just initialize it to the default of 0, which is fine. So now we can be confident that if we were to say something like, let's blast away, let's isolate anywhere where the surface is 1, delete non-selected, and look at it, and there you go. Sure enough, it's the same as the original surface. Cool. And there we go. We're also, as we move things through the Booleans later on, all of our cutting procedures, we are going to want to know what the original normals were so that new normals can be calculated. Specifically, the normals on the surface, we don't want to see seams later on. When we do big cracks in it, we don't want it to be nice, 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 and then all of a sudden weird normals along the line. So by applying normals to the vertices in advance, we will, it'll be able to interpolate if a crack went between these points here. It'll know, well, the normal here went this way and the normal here went this way. So this point must be somewhere in between. And we're only going to be able to do that by storing it in advance. Now, kind of a funny problem though is if I go to here to click view normals, well, where are my normals? They're actually pointing inside of the thing. You can kind of see the bases of them on the top, but essentially they are, it's like a little field of grass down here that we're flying over. That's no good, and that's because this is moving down. Because it's moved, I'm gonna go a little bit more down. Because this is moving down, it's basically inverted, and that's no good. So if we were to go up, it would look right, but somehow this got set. Sorry about that. Here we go. Thought that looked weird for a minute. Now the normals are pointing up and out. but we're not going that direction. So just to say, when we're going down like this, they get inverted. Easily fixed though. Put a reverse down. Just wanted to point that out to you because there's probably going to be a lot of times, or rather we'll put the reverse before the normal thing here. A lot of times when you are doing extrudes, you'll end up with the geometry pointing the wrong direction. It'll also screw up the Boolean anyway. So for more reasons than one, we've got our reverse now, and now we have the normals going the right direction, and you can see that they are in fact now pointing out and not in. Awesome. So let's put a null down here and say terrain, or fracture me, or something fun like that.